The Tibetan Terrier is a hardy, medium-sized dog, native to the plains, mountains, and villages of Tibet. The breed has been in existence for nearly 2,000 years, serving both as companion and versatile worker. The breed may have begun in the Lost Valley of Tibet. One distinct strain lived among nomadic herdsmen who used the dog as a guard, herder, retriever, and provider of wool. Another strain was kept by lamas in Buddhist monasteries, where the dog was valued as a companion and religious symbol of luck. The dogs often accompanied caravans on journeys. During the 1920s, an English missionary physician received a bitch from a grateful Tibetan patient. The doctor acquired dogs from both herding and monastery sources, establishing the breed first in India, then in England. Kennel Club recognition was granted in 1937. Tibetan Terriers came to the United States during the 1950s, with American Kennel Club recognition following in 1973. The present standard for the breed was adopted in 1987 and contains no disqualifications. The name Tibetan Terrier is misleading, for this is not a terrier breed. The Tibetan Terrier does not go to ground, and he has neither a carrier structure nor temperament. The terrier label comes from India, where all dogs of this general size were so categorized. The Tibetan Terrier is characterized by an easygoing personality, strong, agile body, unusual feet, and a profuse double coat. Correct size is important to type. The average dog will stand between 15 and 16 inches at the withers. Bitches should be slightly smaller. Mature dogs or bitches over 17 inches or under 14 inches are faulty. Weight ranges from 18 to 30 pounds, but exact weight is not as important as balance and good proportion of weight to height. The Tibetan Terrier standard calls for a square dog when measured from point of shoulder to root of tail. However, the Tibetan Terrier is actually slightly longer than tall when measured from point of shoulder to point of buttocks. There are several styles among Tibetan Terrier heads. These are all equally acceptable if they meet the basic proportional requirements. Overall size of the head should balance the size of the body. The skull is of medium length, neither broad nor coarse, and may appear to round off slightly. It should not be domed, nor absolutely flat. The distance from eye to tip of nose equals the distance from eye to occiput. There is a distinct but not exaggerated stop. This skull appears to have too much dome. It is important to feel with your hands to determine actual structure. From the front, the skull narrows slightly from ear to eye. The cheekbones curve without bulging. The top knot must fall forward over the foreface, covering the eyes. The beard on the lower jaw is modest in length. The nose is black. This unfilled nose is undesirable. The standard allows the Tibetan Terrier to have a tight scissors bite, tight reverse scissors, level, or even a slightly undershot bite. Note the curve in the jaw between the canine teeth. To retain typical breed expression, the upper jaw must not lengthen, which flattens the stop, and the underjaw must be strong to prevent snipiness. Snipy muzzles and a lack of underjaw are faulty. Remember in your judging that all 4 bites are equally allowed. Overshot, very undershot, and dry mouths are faulty. The ears are pendant with V-shaped leathers. They are heavily feathered like this. They should not lie flat against the head. The eyes are large and dark brown in color. Eye rims are also dark. The eyes are fairly wide set, neither prominent nor sunken. The dog should have a graceful arch of neck, its length balancing the size of the body and allowing the head to be carried erect. A short, thick neck or an exaggerated long neck detract from a balanced appearance. The neck should blend smoothly into well-laid back shoulders, which is more readily visible on this clipped-down dog. The upper arm is angled back so that the dog stands well over his feet. From the side, note that the elbow is directly below the highest point of the withers. The distance from the withers to elbow equals the distance from elbow to ground. Because of the Tibetan Terrier's profuse coat, be sure to feel with your hands to ascertain actual structure. From the front, the chest is heavily furnished. As the rib cage descends, it narrows slightly, giving the forelegs room to work freely. The forelegs are straight and strong. Pasterns are strong and slope slightly for shock absorption. This dog is out at the elbows, making him toe in, which is not desirable. The Tibetan Terrier foot is unique and is a primary breed characteristic. Large and rounded, the foot is effectively flat. You can feel that there is little or no arch. The Tibetan Terrier must stand well down on his pads. There should be no sign of a dog being up on his toes. This is alien to Tibetan Terrier type, as are cat and hare feet. Pads are strong, with plenty of hair between the toes. Remember, the Tibetan Terrier must stand down on his pads, not up on his toes. Two basic functions of this foot are its bending ability to aid grasping and its snowshoe effect. The foot differs in structure from the snowshoe foot of Arctic breeds, but performs the same function, letting the dog work easily in deep snow. However, this is also a flexible foot, which was basic to survival in Tibet. The trait is seen in present-day Tibetan Terriers, who can both climb trees and easily walk along tops of fences. This foot structure also affects gait, as we will see later. The Tibetan Terrier's structure provides for power, speed, and agility. The body is compact and powerful. Because the Tibetan Terrier is required to work hard under high-altitude, low-oxygen conditions, he needs excellent lung capacity, which requires adequate rib spring. The mature dog is well ribbed up, and the brisket extends to the top of the elbow. The length of the body from point of shoulder to root of tail equals the height at the withers. This gives the dog room to turn quickly and move with flexibility. The top line is level, with mature dogs showing a slight arch of muscling over the loin. This weak top line dips in the middle. A roached back is also undesirable. The tail is medium in length, but heavily furnished, which makes it appear long. It is set on high like this, and carried in a curve over the back. The tip may rest on the back, or on either side of the body, like this. There is sometimes a kink at the tip of the tail, like this. This tail is set on too low. An erect flag carriage is also incorrect. This is incorrect. The tail is not carried up and over the back as the dog moves. Moderate angulation in the rear is typical and should be in balance with the angulation of the forequarters. Hocks are well let down and perpendicular to the ground. Stifles are well bent. If you were to drop a perpendicular line from point of buttocks to ground, it would line up with the toes of the hind feet on a moderately angulated dog. This dog is too straight in rear. Over-angulation in the rear is also faulty. From the rear, you can see the good muscling of thighs and buttocks. Hocks are well let down and are parallel. Note the straight column from hip to hock. This rear is weak. It is narrow and lacks muscling. The hocks are not parallel. Remember that the hindquarters are muscular and strong, with well-bent stifles and hocks that are well let down. The rear feet are large and flat, with thick, strong pads. The Tibetan Terrier has a distinctive double coat, which may be straight or wavy. It may vary in length and depth of undercoat. All adults must have a double coat. The top coat must be profuse and of a fine texture. The undercoat consists of soft wool. Top coat texture on an adult must never feel silky, woolly, or cottony, and it must not curl. The adult coat may vary between straight or wavy, as we see here. The length of coat may appear to reach the ground, but on a table you should see an area of light beneath the coat. If so, the length is acceptable, even if it appears to reach the ground when the dog gaits. The depth of the undercoat layer may vary from extremely thick to quite thin, but it must always be present to some degree. It may be affected by climate, breeding lines, or estrus. If it is thin, the top coat will be sleek like this, following the contours of the body. If the undercoat is dense, the top coat will stand off as we see here. Both sleek and stand-off coats are correct. Puppies generally have a shorter coat, lack undercoat, and their top coats can feel soft, silky, or sometimes a bit cottony. The coat may be straight or wavy. The undercoat will develop, and adult texture will start to appear when the dog is about a year old. Adult texture is often seen first over the shoulders, but can take a year or more to finish changing over. Young adults should not be penalized for a half-and-half texture at this stage. Remember that the lack of a double coat in a mature dog is a fault. Correct grooming is absolutely required by the standard. Even the thickest coat must be totally free of mats all the way to the skin. Sculpturing, scissoring, stripping, or shaving are totally contrary to breed type. They are serious faults. A minimal amount of tidying may be done to the feet. Hair between the toes may be trimmed level with pads, but should not be stripped out from between the toes. The Tibetan Terrier should be shown naturally, clean, and brushed. The Tibetan Terrier may or may not be shown with a part over the neck and back. This part is optional. The part should not extend over the foreface to expose the eyes, as demonstrated here. This is faulty. This adult's heavy coat has separated by itself into a part over the foreface. Note that the eyes remain covered. Color in the Tibetan Terrier is not a consideration in judging the breed. These are just a few of the many Tibetan Terrier coat colors and patterns. This variety is one of the breed's most attractive features. All colors and color combinations are equally correct, and no color or combination of colors is preferred. The Tibetan Terrier must move freely and effortlessly, with a characteristic lightness and spring. He must have good extension in front, in balance with a powerful rear drive. The flat foot affects the Tibetan Terrier's gait, more easily seen on this clipped-down dog. The back pads of the foot strike the ground first like a human heel, and the weight rolls forward. Seen from the front, the forelegs reach well forward in a straight line, although the legs will tend to converge towards a single track at faster speeds. The breed's agility is demonstrated in the lightness and elasticity of the rear drive. Note the powerful push and follow-through. Rear legs also tend to converge to a single track. What about this dog's gait? This dog has no reach or drive. He takes too many steps. This dog is crossing in front, which is faulty movement. This dog moves too close behind. Here again is good Tibetan Terrier gait. The back remains steady as the dog moves, with no bounce or roll. The head and tail carriage are also correct. Both in structure and function, the Tibetan Terrier remains very much the mountain dog of Tibet. As you study and judge this breed, remember that the standard contains no disqualifications. Differences in style allowed by the standard are important to the Tibetan Terrier's heritage because they reflect the varying lives lived by herding and monastery dogs. The Tibetan Terrier standard strives to preserve these differences. The Tibetan Terrier has a wonderful, steady temperament. He is reserved and calm among strangers, and especially exuberant and affectionate with those he loves. The Tibetan Terrier is an intelligent and capable worker, but primarily an unsurpassed companion. Altogether, the Tibetan Terrier is a delightful dog who makes friends wherever he travels.